Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with the editor of The Courier in Dundee, David Clegg, and the journalist and broadcaster, Daisy McAndrew. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, The Telegraph is the first of many papers this evening to lead on Trump's final day of his visit to the UK. The headline citing his advice to Starmer, send in military to stop boats. The Guardian's front page is also leading on Trump's advice to Starmer on how to tackle illegal migration. The front page of the Daily Express also focuses on Trump's advice to Starmer on issues from tackling migration to drilling in the North Sea. The Daily Mail also leads on the President's advice to the Prime Minister on using the military to tackle the small boats crisis. Its headline, Trump shows PM who's boss. The Metro is leading on the positive show of friendship between Trump and Starmer, calling it a show of togetherness. The front page of the FT focuses again on the advice from Trump to enable the military to tackle illegal migration in the UK. The Eye is sticking to a similar theme on Trump's advice on migration. And David's paper, The Courier, is also looking at Trump's visit, this time John Swinney and his decision to attend the castle banquet after being criticised by one of his own MPs. The Sun's front page is once again leading on Trump's advice to use the military to tackle the small boats crisis. The Times also leads on Trump's migration advice, including Trump's claim that illegal migration is destroying the UK. The Daily Star's front page is focusing on Trump's comments on Putin. The headline, Putin's let me down. Will take us through the papers this evening. David Clegg and Daisy McAndrew, welcome to you both. We're going to start with the Metro this evening. Their headline, Chequers mates, and we have that photo there of the President and the Prime Minister seemingly getting on famously, and that's, for all intents and purposes, what we saw, wasn't it, David?
Yes, I listened to the press conference in full earlier, and I thought Keir Starmer's team will have been delighted how it went, because we've seen some of Donald Trump's press conference which can descend into chaos, or they can be extremely combative. You're never quite sure what he's going to say. And for Keir Starmer's perspective, it would be, is he going to criticise him? Is he going to attack him? Is he going to undermine this very carefully choreographed 2 days, which has been designed to show the special relationship, as it's known, going from strength to strength? They had successfully had the announcement of billions of pounds of investment in tech companies and the economic impact that that's going to have. And then they had private discussions about some of the thorny issues on the global stage. But really, I think the moment of most risk there, as the Metro sets out, was that press conference when Donald Trump has TV cameras in front of him and an open mic. What exactly is he going to say? And I thought it was a very sober, I hesitate to use the word, but almost sensible approach from Trump throughout the press conference today, and I think that will have delighted Keir Starmer. The question now, of course, is whether there's any actionable takeaways from the meeting on trade deals, Ukraine, Gaza, all those big issues that Keir Starmer was keen to weigh in on.
Daisy, do you think it went as well as it possibly could?
Yes, I think so. I do. I think it was very clever originally when Keir Starmer brandished this letter, when he gave the invitation from the King, when he visited Donald Trump right after he'd taken office for the second time. And that was a smart move, and obviously Trump was tickled pink, and that was the point of it. But then, of course, you have the actual event, which is much more dangerous, because you're letting Donald Trump loose, and we all know that he can be a real loose cannon. So actually, and of course, Keir Starmer also, as a Labour Prime Minister, a lot of his voters and supporters are not Donald Trump fans, so there will have been a lot of disquiet about how many demonstrations there were going to be, how unpopular Keir Starmer could make himself, or put the royal family in a difficult position, and all of those diplomatic issues. So when push comes to shove, when the visit was actually going on, it will have been quite nerve-wracking for those within Whitehall and the royal palaces. So I think they did pull it off, and Keir Starmer did sort of get away with it in some ways. And also, of course, let's not forget, Keir Starmer was having a really rotten week with the Peter Mandelson story, the Lord Mandelson story. There were a lot of potential problems and pitfalls with this trip. And I think they will be, as you said, I think they will be pretty pleased with it.
But David, I was just going to say that the Peter Mandelson question did come up in the press conference.
At the very end.
Donald Trump handled it. Well, Peter who?
Well, what he said he didn't know him, and he completely deferred to Starmer on the issue. He really didn't engage with it at all. And I think they will have been glad that it was the last question, that it hadn't been raised by any of the other journalists until Beth Rigby raised it, in fact. And because in another version of reality, you could have seen Epstein completely dominating that press conference today. They will be very relieved it didn't. And just on the wider point about the risk for Starmer, I think you can have it's been a controversial strategy, especially amongst Labour supporters and Labour members who detest Trump. Let's be frank about it. That they have been so obsequious to him, that they have, rolled out the red carpet for this unprecedented second state visit, as Trump put it himself. If after bending over backwards for the guy, if he then misbehaves while he's here, that is going to be even more embarrassing, and you've got the royal family involved and everything else. So I think there will definitely be relief. It is shown, I think now, not for the first time actually, that Starmer's approach to this, his strategic calculation, which is Trump is a man who responds to flattery, and I am willing to embarrass myself by going to the levels of flattery that he has done, by bending over backwards to ingratiate himself. It does seem to be working at this stage. But again, what I would say is that the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. How much of this investment actually comes off? How many jobs does it really create? And more immediately, does it get anywhere on Ukraine? Does it get anywhere on Gaza?
It's fascinating watching them. They are so different. Their politics are so different. Their sort of personalities are so different. And to see them talking about, my friend this, and there's a lot of touchy-feely and there's a lot of backslapping. I mean, it's fascinating to watch it from a sort of sociological point of view, almost looking at sort of two animals in a zoo to see how they interact. And I did find that very interesting. And in some ways, because we know that Starmer doesn't share Trump's politics, I don't know if that in some ways makes it a bit easier for him, because if it was Kemi Badenoch or if it was Nigel Farage, people would sort of say, well, of course you're being really obsequious towards Donald Trump. You're sort of, trying to get... I don't know, in some ways, because they're different, it can make it look a bit easier, weirdly.
Well, Trump's made a point on several occasions that he likes the guy, he gets on with him and he actually respects...
Which is a miracle.
I mean, it's very interesting when you think about the public impression that Starmer has developed with the British public, which is that he's managerial, that he's not charismatic, that he's dull. You wouldn't really think that winning someone that disagrees with you so vehemently on so many issues on a personal level, being able to make that personal connection, which he clearly has done, would be a strength necessarily of Starmer's. So I think it's quite interesting that whatever has gone on behind closed doors, and I think it was more than an hour they spent with just themselves this afternoon, Starmer has done a good charm job on him in some way.
But as you said, so far, if it all unravels, he's going to have egg on his face, because this is an expensive trip for the government to roll out the red carpet.
But you can imagine the headline of the Mirror is exactly what he's thinking tonight, which is, thank goodness that's over, because I'm sure he was holding his breath. Please don't say anything wrong, don't put a foot wrong.
But interestingly, again, he didn't seem that awkward at any stage in that, I didn't think. And he's a Prime Minister who we have seen not at ease, ill at ease on occasions, especially in those kind of high-profile situations where there's something uncomfortable or something tricky, and he's in front of the camera on it. It seemed to me today that he seemed pretty comfortable in Trump's presence, especially given the context that we've discussed.
I think it's interesting what we were just discussing. Kevin Maguire, of course, well known to this audience. I hear the Mirror journalist saying state fawning for a nasty US bully was stomach churning. There will be a lot of Labour supporters who will feel exactly that, will feel slightly nauseous watching the carpet being rolled out.
And that will be the question in the days and weeks and months ahead. What does the ledger look like? What did we actually get out of it?
To the Mail, perhaps not a paper that's leaning towards the Prime Minister. Their headline, Trump shows PM who's boss. He's urging Starmer to use the military to stop migrant boats, saying that the country, the UK, could be destroyed, branding wind farms, expensive joke. And as we've said previously, he doesn't know who Peter Mandelson
which actually must have been the worst bit for Peter Mandelson. Yeah, rather than or talk about rubbing salt into the wound. Then he was being lauded a week ago as this person that sort of had the White House, on speed dial and had the president's ear, and then the president's like, Peter who? That's absolutely humiliating. But this is interesting. I mean, the Mail obviously saying, oh no, Trump sort of put the boot into Keir Starmer. I mean, like you, David, I watched the whole thing, very intently, and it really didn't feel like he was putting the boot in. It's kind of, this is just the Mail, I think, slightly picking holes in that presser. I know that you and I are quite keen to know what the hidden messages behind Melania's arresting outfits are there. We'll have to wait till we can see pages 8 and 9. But like you were saying in the introduction, Gillian, a lot of the papers have gone on the migrant bit of the press conference, that story. And that is obviously because that is the most domestic bit of policy that was touched on. So it's the bit that a domestic audience, domestic newspapers is going to pick up on, and it's the biggest thorn in the side of the government's policy agenda at the moment. But I don't think that Trump quite said what he said in the way that the papers are all reporting it. I think they're slightly taking him out of context.
Well, he said before, a migration crisis destroys the UK from within.
Well, he said that it destroys countries from within, was what he actually said. It wasn't clear from the context that he was saying that this is happening in Britain.
Yes.
Now, he did say that he thought that there was a serious problem like they had in America. But my two observations very quickly on it would be, the first one, I think that is definitely right, that this was the most high-profile issue going into this. And Keir Starmer will be delighted in some ways that all the pomp and pageantry around Trump has seen it recede into the background a little bit after what had been a very difficult couple of weeks. So clearly there will be a lot of anticipation, especially amongst the press corps, on how is this issue going to flare up, given we know that Trump's views are radically different to Keir Starmer's on it. And actually, again, I think the stories that are being written didn't quite play out. I think there's almost a sense of disappointment from some of the newspapers that there wasn't more fireworks around this issue from Trump today. And what we are seeing here is that that Trump had taken the view that he was going to be able to disagree agreeably in this regard, which isn't something that isn't something that Trump is known for. He's known for being so robust and all out on these types of issues, whereas actually he modified, and I think almost you could see him holding back because he didn't want to give.
There's certainly an element that we've not seen of Donald Trump before, agreeing to disagree. David and Daisy, for the moment, thank you very much. We're going to take a break. Coming up, President Trump isn't happy, though, with Vladimir Putin again. But why not? We'll discuss that next. Just trying to find the answer.
I'm Cordelia Lynch, Sky's Asia correspondent, based here in Bangkok.
These slums, once gripped by fear and death.
There is far less bloodshed now, but it hasn't gone away.
Who's asking you to kill?
The police will give me the orders, and after I kill the target, I throw the gun away.
We try our best to uncover and unpick a fast-changing and deeply complex region.
These large waterways provided an excellent source of body disposal.
This is the Buriganga River, where victims who'd allegedly been shot dead were dumped.
Sheikh Hasina, how confident are you that she will stand trial?
She will stand trial, there's no doubt about that.
We're going to take you to the very heart of a criminal network, going undercover inside Southeast Asia's scam centres for the very first time.
We won't have any problems with police, it's okay.
Just seen Imran Khan leave, and as we understand it, he's just been shot in the leg.
They have decided that the only way they'll allow elections is if I'm inside jail or killed.
Sky News get the full story first.
Chinese vessels start encircling the boat we're on, blocking its path.
The Chinese are now deploying water cannons, firing it directly towards our boat. We've discovered doctors across Delhi dishing out pills like this, claiming they will provide a lifelong cure for homosexuality.
Rohingya people fleeing an escalating civil war.
The situation here in Cox's is desperate. An already insecure place does feel a lot more precarious.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos, analysis, up at 6%. Podcasts, watching us live.
Joins us live.
All in one place, and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent. I've spent 30 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace. The end of the political stalemate, the start of a new chapter for Northern Ireland. Catholics and Protestants now facing the same threat.
If we both contract COVID-19, religion's nothing.
Sky News, the full story first.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, David Clegg and Daisy McAndrew. Let's have a look at the Star to kick off this section. Still talking about Donald Trump, but this time his thoughts on Vladimir Putin. He said that he'd let him down, which is his latest, condemnation, I was going to say, but latest comments on the Russian leader. But one does wonder that, might they change the next time he sees him? Daisy?
I mean, he has said this sort of thing before. It's that sort of, I'm terribly disappointed in my friend Vlad. You can see that he's frustrated. And I thought it was interesting when at one point he said, you think that something's going to be simple and then it's not. And you sort of think, did you really think that dealing with Vladimir Putin was going to be simple or straightforward? But of course, he did think he had a really good relationship with him and that he was going to be able to sort it. I mean, he then said this very ballsy thing, I thought, when he was saying, well, as soon as the gas price comes down, the oil price comes down, it'll all be over. The war will be over. That'll be that. And it's such a Donald Trump thing to say, he's so sort of simplistic in some ways and just says, X plus Y equals the end of that and bish, bash, bosh. So, it was interesting, but it didn't give you much hope that the end was in sight.
It was the most ludicrous moment of the afternoon, I thought, just because it was more textbook Donald Trump in its either naivety or ignorance on world affairs, that thinking Putin in the first place was going to listen to what he said. And I think one of the concerning things about it was in his comments there, and also there was attempted follow-up questions from some of the journalists, and also Starmer has clearly been pushing him quite hard on it because we know it's a priority for him. There was no sense of anything about what America were going to do to try to change the situation. Trump said it looked like it could have been World War III at one stage, but we're not there now, which was the least reassuring non-declaration of World War III that I've ever encountered. So I think it's quite clear that whatever happened in Chequers today, we're no closer to finding a solution to the Ukrainian situation. And Starmer talked about the efforts that the UK and France have been involved in the coalition of the willing, as he called it.
Yeah.
And it feels like the pressure is going to have to come from there, because I certainly didn't get much sense that Trump was going to be taking any decisive action on it soon.
David, we've just got about a minute, but I wanted to bring in your paper, The Courier, and that's the story of First Minister John Swinney defending his decision to attend the state banquet, even though he's been criticised by one of his own MPs.
Much like Starmer, the First Minister, John Swinney, SNP leader, has been facing criticism because he is actually now taking a very conciliatory approach to Trump. He's met him twice the last couple of months as well. He has said that this has very much been focused on the tariff issue, particularly Scotch whisky, which is an economically crucial product in Scotland, and one of the ones that has been particularly badly affected by tariffs. He's in a slightly more awkward position, though, than Starmer, because he had previously been on the record and said the state visit should be cancelled, and he's had a dramatic turnaround on that. He is also someone who is now very much hoping that there will be some results from this, and from his perspective, that would be some movement on whisky as far as the tariffs are concerned when this trade deal is finalised.
But Daisy, he's saying that he felt he should be there to represent the interests of Scotland's people.
It's always very difficult, isn't it? Do you take the Ed Davey line of, I am boycotting this, and then other people go, nobody noticed that you boycotted it, or do you take the line of, it's better to be in the tent rather than outside the tent and trying to influence it, but then your supporters will be very angry with you. And so it is difficult for a lot of these politicians. They sort of are in that situation of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Daisy and David, thank you very much for the moment. We'll see you at the top of the 11. Let's take a look at the weather for you now. Well, the next few days look unsettled, with some disruptive weather possible this weekend when it will turn colder. Many places will have a mild and dry start tomorrow, but parts of central Britain and Ireland will see rain. Southern Scotland, northwest England and the south and east of Ireland will be rather grey through the morning, with further outbreaks of rain. Northwest Wales will be at risk of rain too. Elsewhere, it'll stay mainly dry with plenty of sunshine. It'll be warm and blustery for many, very warm in the calmer southeast. The afternoon will bring more of the same, but the rain will become heavier and more prolonged. A few showers will affect the blustery northwest too. Saturday will bring strong winds with showers or longer spells of heavy rain. Coming up next on Sky News at 11, Donald Trump leaves the UK after his state visit. All the latest analysis coming up.
Fire, shouts the commander. There's a dash to safety.
We've now got to wait inside the shelter to see if there is incoming.
I'm Deborah Hames, Sky Security and Defence Editor.
Should Russia's war with Ukraine escalate significantly, pilots like these could be called upon to go into combat for real.
Hear that whistle and that crunch. We know that they're coming from the south of the city, where there's a column of Russian armoury.
I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides and it's moving this way.